he built this awesome chatbot that basically provides dessert recipes, and it totally made me want to go and eat something sugary and fatty. So Susie, darn you, but you won, so congratulations. On Wednesday, we had this. It was the first time that I actually used a library in a hackathon that was the product of pretty intense research. Um, it was this library called WebGazer.js, and we built eyeball tracking, camera-based eyeball tracking applications on Wednesday. And I was able to play whack-a-mole with just my eyes, which is awesome. Matthew Edel built the whack-a-mole application, so you could just stare at something and it would like moles come up and you stare at them, they die, and it was really super easy, and it was really great to use in a web browser. Um, so it was just mind blowing. The stuff on Wednesday. You guys should check the projects out on the Mintbean platform. We just did a redesign, which, in case people haven't noticed, that was done. It was really super impressive what Claire could do. Claire Furlick is working on that platform right now. She's also from the community, as you might know. She's doing a fantastic job building that platform out. So you can check out the winning projects on the Mintbean platform. Today's code mentors, you won't see them today, but they're Kyle, Zach, and Joel. They're in the hackathon right now. If you're in here on a conference ticket, on an unconference ticket, then you're not going to be able to go over into the hackathon. So that's okay, because, well, I guess I kind of spilled the beans. We're turning Mintbean into an unconference. That's what this is. So this workshop is part of the unconference. I know I'm presenting it right now, and I know it's on live stage, but what it is it's a conference where you guys are the presenters. You guys present on whatever it is. It could be a JavaScript library. It could be your project, your open source project. It could be a non-JavaScript thing. You could talk about Rust or Go. And unconferences are basically, if you want to talk about something, what we do for you is we give you a session room on Hopin. We promote the event for you, and we make sure that people know about the event. We draw people in, and you're able to be a presenter for the day. I'm going to hop over and check out. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Navi, for sharing. And yeah, basically, an unconference is something that's a conference, but not. It's really grassroots. I hate stuffy conferences. I mean, who wants to go to those stuffy conferences where there's one person on stage talking like I am right now? I mean, it's kind of boring. And let's face it, most people are not as awesome as I am. And people start getting bored and leave, and you don't really feel comfortable leaving because, well, they're a highly paid celebrity or something, so you don't want to leave. I'm not a highly paid celebrity. I'm just a software developer. But if you want to be a presenter in an unconference, it's kind of like a TEDx conference where it's something that's run by the community. Let us know. We're looking for people to present on a variety of topics. The sky's the limit. You can even present on things that are not strictly software development related, as long as they're tech industry related. So if you want to talk about gender inequality in the software development industry, be my guest. I would love to have people talk about that stuff. If you want to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and how the Black Lives Matters movement is impacting technology, I'm just creating ideas over here. Be my guest. I would love to host you guys, and we would essentially set you up with a schedule. It could be a 15-minute thing, half an hour thing, hour-long thing. It could be a lightning talk, a fireside chat. It could be a workshop. You could teach people things. So if you want to host an unconference event like this one, then be my guest. Let us know. Let Jen know, and she would be very, very happy to help you guys out and get you guys registered. So moving on, PhaserJS. You guys came here for PhaserJS. So this coming Wednesday, is a great time to go and attend the hackathon on Wednesday. It is fantasy-based. It's a game hack. So you're going to build a game in 4 hours, which, by the way, PhaserJS is extremely easy to use. It's super suited for a 4-hour game hackathon, especially once you start understanding what's going on. Very, 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 very easy to use. So after today's workshop slash walkthrough, I'd highly suggest you go over to the Eventbrite page. I think Jen's probably going to paste that right now. And the Eventbrite page is going to have Wednesday's hackathon registration link. You can use PhaserJS, whatever you learn over here, on Wednesday. And I think it would be awesome, by the way, Mika, Mika, if you want to get one of your mentors to talk about inequality in tech, absolutely. Underprivileged students, underserved communities are, it's weird because it's almost like tech is staying away from them, but they're the ones who could benefit from tech most, because tech, I have never seen anything as inclusive and open to new incoming members as a tech community, especially software development and web development. That sounds like an awesome talk. Yeah, Navi, totally. So for sure, Mika, please message Jen on Discord, and she'll set you up. We can have a talk as soon as next week if your mentor is available or at their schedule. So let's move on to Phaser. I want to tell you guys a little secret. All right. And I share dev tips once in a while. I wanted to share how to become a really good developer. I hope you guys can see my screen, but I'm going to be reading the slide out, and it's only one slide. The way you want to be a really good developer, you only need 3 things that you need to be good at. So the first one is you need to be really good at not knowing things. What that means is you need to admit when you don't know something. You need to know what you don't know, and you need to be comfortable talking about it. So I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend, and that friend of mine, she would never, ever admit to not knowing something. So me and I'm hanging out with her and her boyfriend, and she's talking about stuff, and I know she doesn't know something, and I'll ask her, hey, like I'll just ask her, hey, what about what do you think about the Mongolian influence on the rest of China throughout the 18th and 19th centuries? And she'd probably just make up something on the spot because I don't know, she just has this thing about where she really wants to know. She really wants to express that she knows everything. The weird thing is that it's not just a one-off example. There's this culture that everybody really fights with, especially those of us who are suffering from imposter syndrome once in a while. The burden of saying I know is so high that you kind of just don't want to admit that you don't know anything, or if you don't know something. Instead of saying I know this, or yeah, I kind of know this, but instead of just making something up on the spot, just say I don't know. Just say I don't know. And engineering actually depends on this, because if you say you know something, and if you assert that you are an expert, and then you try and do something, and then that thing doesn't go well, you could end up, it could cost somebody's life. Yes, even in software development. For example, if you're working on a Tesla, or if you're working on an airplane's navigation system, you could end up taking somebody's life. So the first thing you want to do is you always, I want you guys to make me a promise. Whenever you don't know something, I just want you to straight up blatantly just say, I don't know. What is it that you're talking about? And maybe I know it by another name, but I'd like to know more about it. And that's such an easy way to basically open yourself up to curiosity and be open to the possibility of learning. And that's what it's about. That's what software development is all about. So I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know Phaser inside and out, right? I know JavaScript inside and out. I know JavaScript like the back of my hand. I know web development like the back of my hand. So I'm going to admit, in the spirit of this message, I don't know everything about Phaser, but I know how to find that information. And that's what point number 2 is. Be really good at learning lots of new things. They say that software developers are just really good Googlers, right? And there's a little bit of there's a kernel of truth to that. And that's what I'm talking about. Just get really good at learning things fast. I'll show you what I mean. And the third thing is be really good at learning things fast. So lots of new things and learning them fast will make you a good developer, as long as you first admit that you don't know something. So as we go along, you'll see what I mean, and I'll loop back to this. I'm going to move on from the slide now, but we'll loop back to this message, and I'll show you what I mean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, and this time I'm going to show you guys a project that I'm working on in Node.js. And this is a live project. The code for this is up on Discord. If you guys go over to Discord, you'll see the link to the platform. I'll just paste it inside Hopin for everybody's convenience. So here's the template, and I'll post it's on general, so I'm not going to post it again on Discord, but it's inside the general channel. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you guys a little PhaserJS project that I hacked together. Let me start it first. So I have it all set up on localhost 1234. I'm going to turn off the background music because it's really annoying, but I'm just going to turn it off for now, and I'm going to hop over to Chrome, and I'm going to localhost 1234. And there isn't much going, well, I mean, there should be more going on than this, but there isn't much going, oh my God. Okay, the music just started. I'm going to turn the music off again. Oh my God. Start again. This on sound, load audio. I'll just turn this thing off as well, waiting for it to build. Usually takes 30 seconds. I'm using this really cool bundler called Parcel Bundler. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I talk about it a lot. And what Parcel Bundler is it's an alternative to Webpack. I'll show you guys how it works in a second, but essentially it's a much easier version of Webpack. So you can tell your friends that you can do bundling a project from scratch, and you don't have to worry about Parcel at all. So here we go. So super simple. There's nothing much going on over here. There's a little block bouncing around. There's a custom there's a custom background over here, and there's a physics engine, quite obviously, that's making this thing slow down at the top, and there's some gravity. So as you can see, as it gets to the top, it kind of just slows down a lot. And that's essentially stuff that PhaserJS lets you do right out of the box. Like this took me not much time at all. It took me like an hour or two to fully figure out the basics of Phaser, just enough to make this happen, load up sprite sheets, and have this bell bounce around. And I also imported music, which you guys might have heard just for a second, and I'm not going to turn that on again until I put in a pause and play button. Let's walk through the code. So here's the code. I'm starting off in index.js, and I'm importing Phaser. I'm importing a bunch of assets, and those assets right now, they're MP3 background tiles. And I'm going through a bunch of config. Right now, phaser.auto is the only thing that's, I'm using phaser.auto, which automatically chooses WebGL or Canvas. This config object, it gets dumped later on into a new phaser.game, which is kickstarts everything. And in 57 lines of code, you basically have this cool little game over here, which just does stuff. It's just bouncing around. Coming back into Phaser, the config object, this is something about software development that doesn't get talked about too often. Sometimes the right way to read code is from the bottom to the top. So if you go to the bottom, the first thing that's happening is config gets set, and then at back of the top, that's where config is, it lives. So when you're reading code, very often you want to start at the bottom, not at the top. Or in the middle, depending on where that initialization logic is. So PhaserJS is a 2D video game library. And because it's 2D, it has a width and a height. The width and height are in pixels over here. You set those. So this box is 800 by 600, so 800 width and 600 height. And that gets set right here, which is width and height. It has a physics engine. By default, it's in arcade mode. There are a few different modes that you can go into. In the arcade mode, there's gravity, and you can tweak gravity over here. So let's see what happens if there's a y. There has to be an x. So let's see what happens if I set x to some ridiculous amount. I wonder if that would change things. Yep, change things. All right. So you can see it's bouncing around, and now because I've set x to 1500, it's kind of bouncing on the right. And it's actually kind of hypnotic. And that's how easy it is to change things in PhaserJS. Phaser is built, it's a very high level library, and it abstracts things like gravity into single variables, which is really cool. It lets you do things just out of the box, and you can probably shift physics around as you go as well. So you don't have to stick to the same physics. You can change where gravity is aiming, for example. So that's the physics section. And there's a lot more, and I can go into it. I don't actually know what's in physics, so we'll explore it together. There are a bunch of other modes as well that I would really like to walk through as well. So I'll do that in a minute. But let's walk through the rest of the code, shall we? So here's the scene. Now, a scene is something inside Phaser that encapsulates a stage or a view. And that scene, this one over here, we have preload, create, and update. And these are hooks. You don't have to actually create a game loop in Phaser. If you were doing research, you probably heard about, you probably looked up what a game loop is, and PhaserJS handles the game loop for you. Because it handles the game loop for you, you don't really have to worry too much about synchronizing your front end with your logic. You don't have to worry too much about set timeout or get animation frame. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. Instead, all you do is you just put in these hooks. The preload hook over here is loading assets. And right now, it's actually downloading these assets. So for example, this.load.image background downloads the background that's set in the background variable. This.load.spritesheet downloads the tiles that are set in the tiles variable and registers them to this string thing over here. The string is the key for what these variables are. So what I mean by that is when background gets downloaded, that background gets registered against the background key right inside Phaser. So it says this.load.image. So it's going to go and download that image, save it, and give it a name, and that name is background. And this is all happening inside preload. So preload is the phase where we're in right now. And inside preload, that's when you're going to do this.load.image background. So you're doing the same thing with tiles, and that's a sprite sheet. I'll get into that in a second. But let's move on to see how image propagates throughout the code. Inside preload, you're downloading the image and setting it to background, and inside create, so this is like an on-mounted or on-created hook. When it's created, we're adding an image that's a 400 by 300 in size, and that is the background. Okay, so we're adding the background into this application right over here, this.addImage. If I take this out, the background will disappear. So it'll reload. And now the background is gone. You can load that up with anything you want. One thing to note is that it's downloading the background. It's not the background is not bundled into the project. The background is actually being downloaded from the server. Now, this background variable is how we're getting that background ready. So I downloaded this sci-fi platform BG1 from Open Game Assets. And you have in the README, there's a list of there's a short list of asset sources that you can look at. So you can take a look at Open Game Assets. It's really good. itch.io is also really good. I got these off of both, so itch.io and Open Game Assets. So this background is being imported from this JPEG. Now, if you've never seen a JPEG import before, this happens thanks to your bundler. This is not something that you can do right out of the box. This is something that's only available for you if you're using Webpack or if you're using a bundler. I'll get into that in a second. I'm going to check back. I'm going to ask if there are any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Turn the music on. Oh, really? Okay, I'll turn the music on in a second. I have questions. Turn it on, turn it on. Did somebody say music? Okay, yep. Where is the image being stored in your file? Okay, yeah, I'm here on the same wavelength. So that image is being stored inside assets. And it's stored inside the assets folder right here on the left. So it's source assets, and then you have sci-fi platform BG1, and that's the background. The import is working thanks to this little thing that I mentioned before called Parcel Bundler. Parcel Bundler is like Webpack. It supports zounds of file types just out of the box. JSX, view files, Angular, TypeScript. It supports MP3, JPEG, PNG, Markdown, and PUG, straight HTML, straight CSS, SCSS, less, post CSS, just bunches of things just out of the box. Where Webpack does configuration-driven bundling, Parcel Bundler is a convention or configuration style thing where it has sensible defaults, and if you do something, then it's very forgiving and very easy to work with. So if you're looking for an alternative to Webpack that's lighter weight, you're sick and tired of using Create React App, I am, for many reasons, then try Parcel Bundler. You'll be able to get up and running really quick. It'll make you a better developer. It's baby steps towards Webpack, and it'll teach you what a bundler is capable of doing for you. So inside the scripts, you have start, which is parcel source index HTML. That's how I start the whole damn thing. And then there's build, which is, well, this compiles everything down into something that I can dunk on a server and serve as static assets. So parcel source index.html, the nice thing about Parcel is that it actually detects your index.js and automatically loads index.js. In fact, I can even train it to look for index.ts TypeScript, and it'll just load index.ts. I mean, that's insane. That's awesome. And Parcel gives you that right out of the box. You don't need to worry about a thing. Parcel just lets you use TypeScript files, JavaScript files, even ELM.js files. Oh, we're doing an ELM.js hackathon in the near future, in the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. If you guys haven't heard about it, I'm not going to go into it right now, but it's this pure functional way of doing HTML and JavaScript. Let's get back to index.js. So coming back down here, that background gets loaded, downloaded, and preload, and then it gets added in Create. Now, that background, oh, I commented it out for some, right, I commented it out, right. So it gets added to Create. Then the same thing, we're doing the same thing with tiles. Now, tiles are a sprite sheet. I want to show you guys what tiles look like. Tiles is coming in from Sci-Fi Platform Tiles 32 by 32. I'm going to click on that here. And this is what a sprite sheet looks like. Right? It's not much to look at. It has different things going on over here, like different kinds of tiles. And you can The point of a sprite sheet is you can basically pick up these tiles and drop them into your project, and it should just work. It should just be available for you through PhaserJS. A sprite sheet is kind of like it's kind of like a menu, and in that menu you can pick up any tile you want and display it. So, for example, this guy over here, this little block with the blue highlights or lights, that's a sprite. And it's exactly 32 pixels by 32 pixels. How do I know this? It's because it says so on the website, and it says so on the Spritesheets file format. It's 32 by 32, and I can just pick that up and drop it in somewhere. So if I go into index.js, you'll notice that when I'm loading the sprite sheet, I pass in a frame width, I pass in a frame height, and those tiles just get loaded for me, right? Very, very rudimentary. It gets registered against tiles. And then you can go down and you can add images by tile number. So for this box, that box is bouncing around. Where did it go? Localhost 1234. So that box is bouncing around. It's actually picked up from that sprite sheet. And if I go into code again, what I'm doing here is I'm doing this .physics.add.image. Notice that all I had to do to add it to the physics engine was just add the .physics prefix. The background was added statically. It was just in the background. This .add image, this .add.image. Instead, to add the box, because it's a moving thing, I'm doing this .physics.add.image, and everything else is the same. In fact, you would have the exact same syntax over here that you have over here. Okay, so very straightforward. This is stuff that's not really very straightforward and explained in Phaser's documentation. I really wish they explained this stuff more explicitly. But this is really how you kind of learn, is by having somebody walk you through the stuff is really a fast way to learn the stuff. So I'm just giving you guys a cold note, the Spark Notes / Cold Notes. I think Cold Notes is the competitor, right? Version of PhaserJS. So you're adding that image to the physics engine at 400x and 100y. And you're adding the sprite sheet. So you're referring to the sprite sheet over here, and you're asking for sprite number 15. So let's go back and let's count. So 1, 2, well, these are a lot of empty spaces. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it's probably, I'm guessing, it's probably actually deleting the empty sprite. So it's probably coming in, somehow resolving it to this sprite over here. Okay, you can experiment with what that looks like. If you go into the source code, let's experiment a little bit. I have no idea what's going to happen. If I change that to 1, I wonder what will happen. So now it's put in this very low transparency, like this super transparent little box that you can still see. I don't know if you guys can see it, which tells me that what Phaser does is it reads transparencies as tiles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's see what I want to try and target this guy. I think that sprite number 8 will give me this gray tile over here, even though it's a little out of shape. It's a little too large, but I think tile number 8 is going to give me that half gray tile. And I've put in tile number 8, as you can see. Nope, not tile 8. Let's try tile 10. And again, I have no clue what's going to happen. I'm just going to try and iterate through this until I get to something that seems right, and then I'm going to backpedal from there. So these are things where I know that 15 works. So these are those things that I was talking about. You don't know, but you need to know how to learn fast. So 15 seems to work. Let's see what happens if I do 16. Let's see how that changes. And I'm trying to now get a feel for how the sprite system works inside Phaser. That looks very similar, but it seems to have this upper border. Let's jump ahead. Let's do like 20 or something. So this is around 15. I'm guessing this is 30. So I guess this is probably 45. So at 45, maybe I'll get, I don't know, maybe I'll get a little gray block with a blue light. So let's try 45. And I might fail. I don't know, but let's see. Oh, let's try 46. Might be just going, it might be 0 index, in which case it's probably 47 or 48. 48. If this doesn't work, I'm going back to 15, but I think yeah, this didn't work. But you guys get what I mean. Sprite sheets work like this. And now I'm curious, how does Phaser sprite sheet work? Like what is this stuff? And I'm going to teach you guys how to walk through Phaser's documentation now to understand how sprite sheets work. So I'm going to go to phaser.io. And I'm going to go, so I could go to Learn, and I bet there's a tutorial inside Learn that helps me out. But I'm first going to go to API docs, because this is a very technical question. The very specific technical question is, if I dump in a certain number of parameters, like a certain parameter over here, 15, and I've already decided that frame width and frame height are 32 pixels each, then how does PhaserJS calculate which tile to display? Right. So let's take a look. So Webpack, source code, I'm going to look for sprite sheet. Namespace, classes, namespaces, let's do classes. Sprite, no, okay, let's try PhaserJS, sprite sheet, API docs. Come to sprite sheet, there we go. Sometimes Google has the answer, and Google's easier to search than API docs. So it said that there's a sprite sheet thing over here. Sprite sheet. Here. Sprite sheet key. Okay, so this is in preload, and the way I know that is we're inside the loader plugin. We probably want to be somewhere else, but inside preload you have this.spritesheet.plugin. This is how we're downloading it. That's fine. That's not what I'm looking for, though. And because it's not what I'm looking for, I actually want to do this.add.image. So it's probably documentation is probably for this.add.image, Phaser 3, sprite sheet, and let's see if I can get something out of here. We've already visited this, but it's showing me this.load.image over here. And sometimes documentation is not the best way to do it either. Sometimes what you want to do is you just want to take a look at examples. And you have to get used as a developer to learning a variety of techniques to get the information you want, a variety of sources. So over here, you have the loader plugin. I'm still not done, so I'm going to try and look for this.add.image. Main menu, nothing looks like a sprite sheet, although this looks like a sprite sheet. Nothing looks like a sprite sheet over here. And this is what I mean. I have something. So this.add.image xy. So I have something over here. Bingo. Where did it go? Yep. No, where did it go? There we go. So this.load.sprite sheet, this is where you're downloading it, and this is where you're using it. This.add.image later in your game. So this is adding 0. Once the file has, okay, see the documentation for phaser types, loader, file type, spreadsheet, file config for more information, is what it says over here. And if you have specified a set prefix, all right. I'm now looking for references to the documentation over here, like what exactly do I pass in? So key, URL, frame width, frame config, nope. XHR settings, nope. This is one of the things about Phaser that really bugs me is their documentation is weird. Let's see what happens. Spreadsheet texture pack to build a spreadsheet. Oh, here we go. How to create spreadsheets, how to extract spreadsheets. So this dot add dot sprite city scene background. It kind of looks like adding a static sprite is not very well documented, but you know what? I'll do a compromise over here because I don't want to waste our time collectively. And there's so much more I want to show you about how to work with Phaser and what resources to pick. But clearly over here, you can also have a spreadsheet that walks. So you can create animations with Phaser. So this.anims.create with the key walk. Frames are whatever the frame names are. So you can add frame names. You can add, I'm guessing, frame numbers as well. You can add the rate at which it's moving. So this guy can, you can get somebody walking across the screen with a full walking animation with the help of a sprite sheet. Open game assets is where you can get sprite sheets, and open game art, sorry. And open game art is this really basically a free list of assets. Here's Pixel Frog. If I click on Pixel Frog, I can download 16 by 16 pixel art frog, and it has 2 frames, one for jumping. So looks like it's a GIF or a GIF. So as you can see, it has 2 frames. One is just slightly higher than the other, and that lets you animate the frog, make it jump. And because PhaserJS is actually handling the game loop for you, you're going to be able to just let the frog jump up and down. You don't have to code the logic in for that. You get a nice little animation. And it looks like the hitbox is probably nicely done as well. So it probably works well with the hitboxes as well. Walking back to backstage. Game loop, okay. Can you use any image using Webpack, or is it only from the server? You have to import it from the server, but I will answer those questions in a second. How this works? Okay. Okay, good questions. So I'll go from the top. Cool. I didn't know Phaser took a, okay. Can you use any image using the using Webpack, or is it only from the server? So what a bundler does, and when you import the JPEG using the bundler, does it auto-populate the image into your file tree, or do you have to like put the image in and also import it? Does it auto-populate the image into your file tree, or do you have to like put the image in and also import it? So here's how bundlers work. I'm going to delete the dist folder. And I'm going to go over here. As you know, it's serving, it's doing live reload. Let's say I'm done with my work, right? Like I'm done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a yarn build. What is yarn build? Well, inside package.json, you have this thing, which is scripts. And inside scripts, you have start and build. And inside build, I've told Parcel to just build source.index.html. I just added that build keyword. And when I do yarn build, that's what gets run. It says over here, that's what gets run. It's going to do its thing. and it's going to build all of this. Right. Now notice that dist has appeared up here. Okay. Still building. It takes a while to build PhaserJS. You can slim down the bundle. You can selectively build PhaserJS, like a custom build, kind of like Bootstrap's custom builds or Ant Design or jQuery's custom builds. But right now, it's just building Phaser. It takes about 30, 40 seconds for this project to build, maybe 50, 60. And as soon as that's built, we're going to go and look in the dist folder, which is where it's outputting everything. That's just the default location for the output files. Because this is just a website, and websites are just built using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the output is also just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Doesn't matter what the input is, and a few assets like images and MP3s, whatever you're importing over there, whatever you've put into the import statement gets processed. Oof. Build. I think it might actually be screwing up because I have a serve. No. I'm gonna wait for this. Anybody have any good programmer jokes? Do you guys get why Halloween and Christmas are the same for a programmer? It's because October 31st equals December 25th, but that's also a very coincidental pun on octal and binary. I don't know if this is getting too geeky for you guys. I don't think I'll even be able to get into it by the time this thing builds. Depends on how long it takes to build. But there's this old programming joke. Why do programmers confuse Halloween and Christmas? And the answer is because October 31st, which is Halloween, is equal to December 25th. Why? Because in octal notation, 31 equals 25. In decimal notation, 25 equals 25. Now, how does octal equals 31? 31 equals 25? How? So the way notation works is for every place, you multiply it by base minus 1 times the base. So I don't know if I even want to get into this, but in octal, every place is, so you have 3 and then 1. And octal means base 8. Hex means base 16, but we won't get into that. And in octal, 3, so you have 3, so you do 3 times 8 plus 1 times 0, because, well, 1 times 8 raised to 0, 3 times 8 raised to 1. I know this is too much math, but anyway, I think I over-explained it. What you end up getting is 24 plus 1. So 31 is 24 plus 1 because 3 times 8 and then 1 times 1. Anyway, I killed that, but I was just wasting time. Holy crap, it took 143 seconds for that to build. That's crazy. And you can see why. There's a 5 megabyte sound file and a 8 megabyte map file. Holy crap. So all of that then got dumped into dist. I'm going to close this. And all of that got dumped into dist. And dist now looks like this super ugly mess of things. And it has JavaScript, a map file, and it has these ugly little numbers. This is not meant to be edited by human hands. If you look inside index, you'll see that this has been minified too. And if you go over to the script, you'll see that the script source equals source.1834d52d.js. This has to do with cache busting. I won't get into it, but this is basically like a uniqueness thing that gets added. And that's exactly the same as the source over here. All of that gets bundled. And now what I can do is I can go into dist. I can just drop this dist into a simple PHP server or a simple web server, even a folder, and serve it over the web. And this gets, this is how things get moved over. So when in index.js, I import MP3, it just copy pastes, the bundler just copy pastes the MP3 into dist. And once it's in dist, it lives over there, and you can actually access it right from doing a simple get call in your browser. You can just access that MP3. So that's kind of how the import ties into assets in the server. And that background variable gets set to the file name of the output folder, of the output file. So background now becomes sci-fi platform BG1 C971C A5D.jpg. That's what background is. And when I go into this load image background, it just gets imported over there. So I will move on from this. So crickets, yep. 10 times the finish. Yeah, haha, Sam. What's the object-oriented way to... Those are terrible. So it's the bundler that pulls it all in. Then you can call it, and the background variable gets auto-set. Bundler that pulls it all in. The bundler is what compiles everything to something that you don't need to worry about, but they're all static assets. And then it just replaces the variables with the files of the static files for static files, or it replaces them. Yeah, exactly. It just starts replacing them. Nerdic. Oh my god. All right. So that's as far as the bundling goes. But this is important stuff, because if you're going to work with Phaser and you want to do deployments, half of the deployment problems disappear if you understand that everything gets built into dist. Think of it like a food processor. You know, vegetables go in, juice comes out. You can't get the vegetables out of the juice again, but the juice tastes really good. That's what it does. It's like a blender. So that's Parcel. Webpack does the same thing. Most bundlers do the same thing. Rollup probably does the same thing. So coming back to Phaser, which is what you guys came here for, box is the image that's bouncing around, and the box's velocity is set to a certain velocity. So if I set this to a lower velocity, it'll get lower. The bounce is also something that can be configured, and all of this stuff can be figured out. You can go into Parcel and you can figure this. Phaser, and you can figure this out. Now, how do we add, let's say, keyboard functionality? I actually haven't experimented with keyboard functionality, but I did figure out how to get that information. Here's how you get that information. So PhaserJS, best way to learn from PhaserJS's website is one of the best ways is you go into the example section, and it's phaser.io, very easy to find. Go into examples and make sure that you're in the Phaser 3 examples and you're using Phaser 3. Phaser 2 is older, but look at the Phaser 3 examples and you'll see that they're all neatly categorized. So you have actions, you have animation, audio, cache, camera, components, demo scene, which is really cool, depth sorting, display, Twitter, I don't know what Twitter is, events, game config, and there's a bunch more. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to look for controls or events, and events is probably where controller events can be found, and input events are not here, so I'd probably have to go back. Anyway, somehow I find this example, okay? And this example came out of keyboard, which came out of the input category, which, I'm just going up and up and up in the folder. So if you go to input, you click on input, which in hindsight I should have clicked first, and then you go to keyboard. And then inside keyboard, you have add a single key, create key combo. But then at some point, you realize that you are going to be able to do cursor keys. And cursor keys lets you move a box around on the screen. And I'm going to press down. And you can actually play with it right on the website itself. And what's more, you can go down and you can actually get the source code, right? Pretty easy. You can even view it on GitHub. You don't really need to. But here's how this person did it. Config, phaser example, background color, etc., physics, scene, cursors, game, and then in preload, they're loading the block. In create, they're doing this thing called this.input.keyboard.create cursor keys. So I'm going to take that. And I am going to put that into create. And cursors needs to be shared. So I'm just going to create a let cursors. And in create, cursors is set to create cursor keys. I don't need to worry about anything else now. Player.set collide world bounds true. That's probably important. But so then I see. Player this.physics.add image. So we've already done a this.physics.add image over here. I'm not going to repeat it. And inside update, what I'm going to do is instead of putting box over here, I'm going to add a let box variable. So I can use it inside update. Now inside update, I've encountered this before, how a lot of game systems work is they listen for the game loop to register a cursor down. This game loop is going really fast, like hundreds of times a second, and possibly. And when you do a key down, the game loop is responsible for registering that. So you don't have to worry about that because PhaserJS, again, takes care of the game loop. All you have to do over here is hook into the cursors.left or right or up or down .isDown variable, right? It's that simple. It's that simple. I'm going to code this up by hand, just as a teaching tool. And let's do that together. So update, I'm going to get into an if statement. So if cursors.left.isDown, player.set, box.set velocity x, and it's gonna. I'm curious to see what'll happen with the game engine. The box.set velocity minus 300. So we're gonna do left, right, up, down. I don't like left, right, up, down. I like going clockwise from the top because that's how CSS does everything. So I do up, right, down, left. It just feels more like JavaScript. So if cursors.up.isDown, then set velocity y is what is up over here. So it's negative. Yep. Right, so set velocity x is positive 300, down, so positive 300, and left is negative 300. So the coordinate system is top left. So x is left to right, but y is top to bottom. So the lower you go, the higher the y value. And if anybody over here is familiar with how XY coordinates work in JavaScript or HTML, then it's very similar. So I've done that. And I'm going to see if that actually took effect. Yep, I can see that it's doing something. And I see. So let me just turn gravity off for a second. And I'll refresh. So all I did was added cursors.up is down. So immediately, if I press down, it moves towards gravity. If I press right, it moves rightwards. If I press up, it kind of moves upwards. And I probably messed up somewhere in how the up, right, down, left is set. Box.set velocity y, if I press up, y should go upwards, right, then x should go, right, okay. So cursors.down, this should be y, and this should be x. You can get screwed up over here a lot with the x's and y's. You have to be very careful. This is the one place where dozens of bugs come out, is the XY coordinate system. There you go. So now I'm kind of set. So I can now control this box. I can now control this box, kind of. And it's really nice because it just sets the velocity and it can go. I'm going to turn on physics now. So I'm just going to turn gravity on. And you're going to see how easy it is to experiment with Phaser. So gravity is on, and I can now jump. I can kind of float in midair, but I can also go lower. And then if I just go here, you can see that I can actually control how high I'm jumping. I can fly. I can fly. So that's literally how easy it is. Yeah, this is literally how easy it is to work with Phaser. I'm going to take the X gravity out, and I'm going to set the Y gravity to 200. And that'll refresh it, and now it'll be a little bit more, gravity-like. So I can jump. And it's really easy. It's a lot of fun. Phaser makes it so that you can actually iterate in your game in a hackathon really fast, and I really recommend you work with it. All right, time's up. Next hackathon is Wednesday. That's the fantasy game hack. We're going to be using PhaserJS exclusively for that one. And I highly recommend you guys come and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let me know if you have any questions at all, if you have any concerns. If this didn't make sense to you, you can drop questions in Discord. I'll take last minute questions now in case there's anybody asking for questions. Let's see. Where to load? 400 is half the size of the canvas. You know what? This is one of the things about, Sam, this is one of the things about Phaser. I don't know. I don't know why it says, I noticed that 400 by 300 is half the size. I think what's happening is 400 by 300 is the center point of the background. And the background in this case is center oriented, which if you think about it, kind of makes sense because it's easier to think about that way in many ways. But that's my best guess, is they've set the origin, it's called the origin, which usually is on the top left, top left. They've set it to the middle of the image. So that's my best guess. That's why they're, so nerd, cricket, two types of engineers. Yeah, bundlers and magic. Abstraction machine, code juice, now it's a game. Get this bad boy on Steam, greenlight it. Citybox, oh yeah. Hey Monarch, did you by chance record this video? I think I might have, Mason. I'm not sure. I think I might have. Chris, what's your question? Why? Oh God, music. Okay, fine. It's really annoying. Let me know if you hear it because it's really loud in my ear. Please let me know when you hear it. 3, 2, 1. Enjoy. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't download it. See, it throws an error if you don't download the music first. Oh, you know what? This is a good opportunity to show you guys what happens in the network tab. It goes back to the bundling thing, and you'll see how stuff gets downloaded in the network tab. And it's going to blare any moment now, but you can see stuff getting downloaded, and the tiles and the music are part of it. So you can see MP3. I'll point it out because I won't be able to talk over that music. I'm assuming you can hear the music because I don't know if you can. I can. But if you want to hear the music, download it, download the project. I'll push up the latest code. And yeah, I'm going to turn this thing off because it's super annoying, but you can see, yeah, I don't know if you guys heard